Towards the end of the show, I got to take Margaret Atwood on a tour of the sets. She definitely picked out like the reasons some of the architectural styles that I employed were there. Oh, this feels a little bit Art Deco. Is that because there's the proto-fascist movement? And she's very knowledgeable of history. And I didn't realize that that extended to architecture, but it definitely does. So that was a nice moment to have. I came onto Handmaid's Tale on season 2 as the supervising art director. I was very lucky and happy to be invited back as production designer on The Testaments. Coming back to work with the creatives on the team and also with the crew on the team was really amazing. The crew in Toronto are outstanding, the best construction, scenic, and art department as well. The Toronto art department is really unmatched in other places, so it was nice to come back and work with everybody again. We wanted to create a show that had a very different look because the perspective that The Testaments is told from is very different than the perspective of The Handmaid's Tale. When you're with the character June in The Handmaid's Tale, she's captive and her life is pretty bleak. In The Testaments, we actually have 3 different perspectives that Margaret Atwood writes from. And so depending on which character we're with, the look does shift a little bit, in the cinematography at least. From the perspective of Agnes and Daisy, the 2 young girls in the story, they're in a world that is a very privileged existence. For Agnes, she doesn't know anything outside of Gilead. So what she sees is just a beautiful world that's being presented to her. Daisy comes in from Toronto and she does know the world outside. And so she's seeing it in a kind of amazement, like what are all these things that are happening here? But we really wanted to shift away from some of the elements that were signature to Handmaid's Tale. We wanted to shift the color and bring in more saturation and allow there to be these pockets of light and a real beauty to everything that they were surrounded by, just really to highlight that change of perspective. The set that maybe most anchors the show, and it was the most important in design direction and the whole look, was the Lydia School. That process began really from some research, looking at finishing schools, the kind of history of women's colleges in the US. So by the time we went scouting with the director, I had already developed, what I was hoping for in the look of the show. And we found this gorgeous estate, which is actually a private residence. And it provided all the things that we were seeking, a very graphic front entrance, very symmetrical look, a nice long driveway leading to it and gates and a kind of sense of security. One of our stipulations was that we couldn't touch the walls. We couldn't put a nail in for a painting. And so we had to work with what was there. So it was a challenge, but the location was definitely worth it. We knew we wanted to build studio sets so that we could keep as many days as possible in studio. It's just cheaper that way. And you have a lot more control over, temperature and lighting. So it was a matter of designing a look that would bring this idea that I already had for the school into the world of the location. Some of the key people in graphics and set design have worked on The Handmaid's Tale for many seasons, and I was lucky to have some of them come over to The Testaments and work with us and help to design some of those key sets, the school and also Agnes's world in her bedroom and that dollhouse. A huge shout out has to go out to the construction and scenic team for that dollhouse, because at the same time that we're building the scope of the dining hall and the school corridors and classrooms and the bathroom and the complicated tiling and paint finishes, they replicated in miniature a replica of the house, down to the ironwork on the stair detail, set deck as well. They were decorating the house, the school, huge sets, and then also decorating this tiny dollhouse with all the little pieces and having things custom reupholstered in miniature. I've definitely grown, as a production designer with this show. It's the biggest thing I've ever been at the helm of the art department for. The main focus being crafting the world. It's nice to be able to contribute through the art department to, a storyline. For example, the classroom with the weaving, that wasn't scripted. That was something that, researching the history of women's education, I came across a lot of images of home economics classes, and the girls of Gilead don't read and they're not taught history. And so, we needed to figure out a direction for these classes. And I also thought, well, why don't we allow them to be working on beautifying the home, and then we can have these amazing scenes with, interesting props. And then we can also bring that into the set itself and allow the school to kind of get surrounded by those things that they've made in this weaving class. So it's nice to be able to think visually about what can enrich the story, and then sort of feed that back to the writer's room. So I would say that that's the part of the Testaments that's made me grow into, more of a storyteller, which is really nice.